Hello, my dear friends, let me start by saying this. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to feel ready, and you certainly don't need to wait until fear disappears, because the truth is, some of the most powerful things you'll ever do in your life, you'll do while tired, you'll do while scared, but you'll do them anyway. We live in a world that glorifies perfection, shiny resumes, flawless skin, curated success stories, but behind every breakthrough is a battle. Behind every overnight success is a decade of sleepless nights, doubts, failures, and sheer grit. I have done things with tears in my eyes and shaking hands. I've walked into rooms where I didn't feel like I belonged. I've faced rejection that felt personal and failure that felt permanent, and every single time I had two choices: to give in or to show up. Showing up is half the battle, but showing up when you're exhausted, that's power. Showing up when you're terrified, that's courage. That's where growth happens. Not in your comfort zone, but just outside of it, in that messy, chaotic, unpredictable space where most people stop. But you won't stop. You don't need to feel brave to be brave. You just need to take the step. The magic happens when you stop waiting for the perfect conditions and start trusting yourself. Yes, you're tired, but you're still standing. Yes, you're scared, but you're still dreaming. That fire inside you, it's not random. It's your signal, your calling, your fight song. So go ahead, launch the project, apply for the job, get on the stage. Speak up, fall down and get back up again. Do it tired, do it scared, just do it. You don't need to have it all figured out, just the courage to begin. That single truth has the power to shatter the myth that we must be ready, perfect, and fully equipped before we start chasing our dreams. The reality is, no one ever really feels ready. Readiness is a myth we tell ourselves to delay action. It's a comfort zone dressed in logic, and the truth is, the people who wait until they're ready rarely ever begin. Starting in its purest form is an act of courage, not because you're confident, not because you have all the answers, but because you believe, deep down, that there is something worth fighting for, something worth risking the unknown for. That belief doesn't require a master plan. It requires faith, faith in your ability to figure things out along the way, faith that your passion will outlive your fear, faith that movement, even when it's clumsy, is more valuable than standing still and perfecting your hesitation. We're taught to seek clarity before we move. We obsess over the right moment, the right time, the right circumstances. But life doesn't work like that. You won't get a sign from the universe. You won't always get validation from others. You won't always know if this path is the right one until you walk it. What you will get, if you dare to begin, is momentum, and momentum is what changes everything. The most successful people in the world, the boldest creators, the most respected leaders, none of them began with certainty. They began with a spark, a question, a whisper that said, "Try." And so they did. They stumbled, they failed, they fell, but they began. That's what separates dreamers from doers. Not perfection, not preparation, but the willingness to act while still figuring things out. When you demand perfection before action, you paralyze yourself. Perfection is a moving target. It's a trap. The pursuit of it can stall even the most brilliant ideas, the most passionate ambitions, and waiting to feel ready often turns into waiting forever. Life rewards those who are in motion, who take messy, bold, imperfect steps. It's in those steps that you learn what you need to know. You won't become better by thinking about the journey. You become better by walking it. Starting without having it all figured out also requires you to trust yourself. That is not always easy. Many of us are taught to doubt our instincts, to rely on approval from others. But you are the one who has to live with your choices. You are the one who wakes up with your dreams in your chest. No one else hears them the way you do. So when your intuition nudges you forward, even if your mind screams, "Not yet," listen to that voice. Trust that version of you who can see something others can't. There's a reason we remember stories of underdogs, of people who defied the odds and built something extraordinary from scratch. It's because we see ourselves in them. We see the struggle, the uncertainty, and the sheer audacity to try when the outcome wasn't guaranteed. And deep down, we hope we have that kind of courage too. But courage doesn't always look like roaring bravery. Sometimes it's a quiet decision, a single action, a whispered yes to an opportunity you're afraid to take. You don't need a 5-year plan to begin a passion project. You don't need a degree to start learning something new. You don't need a full business strategy to launch your idea. What you need is the willingness to do the next right thing, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's sending an email, making a phone call, registering that domain, showing up at the gym, writing the first paragraph, asking the first question. The path unfolds as you move. It reveals itself one step at a time. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real ones. More people willing to be seen trying, willing to stumble publicly, willing to say, I'm not there yet, but I've started. That honesty is far more powerful than a polished image. Because what you do when you're still learning, still growing, still unsure, that's what inspires others to believe they can do it too. You give people permission to start when they see you doing it before you're ready. And what's even more incredible, when you begin, the universe meets you halfway. The people, resources, and opportunities you thought you needed before you started often show up after you've taken that leap. That's not magic. That's momentum. That's alignment. That's life responding to your courage. You may not have every answer. You may not have the roadmap, but you have something far more important, a reason. A fire, a longing, and that's where you begin. Don't underestimate what happens when you move from that place. The clarity will come, the confidence will grow, the skills will sharpen, but only if you start. So stop waiting to be fearless. Stop waiting to be flawless. Start with fear. Start with doubt. Start where you are. You don't need to be ready. You just need to be brave enough to begin. Behind every success is struggle. It's a truth we often forget in a world obsessed with highlight reels. We scroll past glossy achievements, viral speeches, perfectly curated careers, and assume that success must come easily to others. We convince ourselves that they must have had the right connections, the perfect timing, or some magical quality we don't. But what we don't see are the long nights, the broken plans, the rejections, the doubt, and the silent battles. Every triumph has a backstory, and most of them are messy. Struggle is not the opposite of success. It is the foundation of it. The people who rise aren't the ones who had everything handed to them. They're the ones who kept going when everything was trying to stop them. They're the ones who heard no 1,000 times and still found the strength to say yes to themselves. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning how to navigate it, how to endure it, and how to turn it into fuel. There's a strength that only struggle can teach you. It builds resilience, the kind of resilience that doesn't crack under pressure, that doesn't fall apart when plans don't go your way. You learn how to improvise, how to dig deeper, how to keep showing up even when it feels pointless. Every setback teaches you something you couldn't have learned from a smooth path. It teaches you how to fight for yourself, how to value the process, how to recognize the difference between what you want and what you truly need. People don't grow when everything goes according to plan. They grow when things fall apart and they're forced to rebuild from the ground up. They grow when they lose, when they fail, when they're overlooked, underestimated, or misunderstood. It's in those moments that character is built, and character, not charm, is what holds up a life of real meaning. There's this false belief that struggle disqualifies you, that if you've failed too much or suffered too deeply, you're somehow unfit for greatness. But the truth is, struggle qualifies you. It gives your success depth. It gives your voice authenticity. It gives your journey weight. When you walk through fire and come out stronger, you become the kind of person who doesn't just chase success. You embody it, you earn it. The world often applauds outcomes but overlooks the process, and yet the process is everything. The tears you cry in private, the decisions you make when no one's watching, the moments you doubt yourself but keep going anyway, those are the moments that shape your legacy. Success built without struggle is shallow, but success built after surviving chaos, that's unshakable. There's also something profoundly human about struggle. It connects us. It strips away the illusion of perfection and reminds us that we're all fighting our own battles. When you see someone rise after falling, you don't just admire them, you feel them, you relate to them. That kind of connection is powerful. It builds empathy, and empathy is a quiet force that changes how we show up in the world. The truth is, most people want to skip the hard part. They want the dream job, but not the nights spent doubting their worth. They want the recognition, but not the years of being invisible. They want the win, but not the wounds. But you can't skip the hard part. That's where the magic is. That's where the lessons live. That's where you become the person capable of handling the dream when it finally shows up. Struggle also teaches you gratitude. When you've had to fight for every step, you don't take your success for granted. You savor it, you protect it, you respect the journey it took to get there. You know what it cost you, and that gives you perspective. You become someone who appreciates not just the big wins, but the small victories, the moments of peace, the people who believed in you, the strength you didn't know you had. Even the moments that break you have value. Because sometimes being broken opens you up, it humbles you, it grounds you, and eventually it rebuilds you into someone you couldn't have become any other way. The path is not supposed to be smooth. It's supposed to shape you. Success is not about skipping pain, it's about transforming through it. So don't be ashamed of your struggle. Don't hide the chapters where things were hard. Those are the most important pages of your story. Own them, speak them, let them be seen, because somewhere out there, someone is fighting a battle you've already overcome. And when they see your scars, they'll believe in their own healing. When they see your rise, they'll believe in their own comeback. Your struggle does not make you weak. It makes you real. It makes you honest. It makes you brave. And when you succeed, and you will, it will not be in spite of your struggle, but because of it. That is the truth no highlight reel will ever show you. But it is the truth worth living by. Real strength is in showing up even when you're exhausted or afraid. It's easy to show up when everything's going well, when you're confident, well, rested, and everything's falling into place. But what defines you isn't how you perform at your best. It's how you show up when you feel at your worst, when the weight on your shoulders feels unbearable, when self-doubt whispers louder than your dreams. When you're scared and tired, but you show up anyway, that's where true power lies. People often wait to feel inspired, to feel motivated, to feel emotionally ready before they commit to something hard. But life doesn't operate on your schedule. Opportunities don't pause while you get your energy back. The world keeps moving, whether you're prepared or not, and that's why showing up, especially when you're not okay, is such an act of courage. It's not about forcing yourself to pretend you're fine. It's about choosing to keep going in the face of discomfort, fear, and exhaustion. You don't build strength by waiting for ideal circumstances. You build it by pushing through imperfect ones. When your body is drained and your mind is clouded, yet you get out of bed, face your day, and take even one small step forward, that's strength, that's resilience. That's the part of you that refuses to quit, even when every excuse would make sense. That's the voice inside that whispers, just get through this, keep going. Sometimes showing up doesn't look like a big dramatic act. It's not always crossing a finish line or giving a powerful speech. Sometimes showing up is sending the email you've been avoiding, taking the call you're dreading, starting the workout when your legs feel like lead. Getting on stage even when your hands are shaking, speaking up even though your heart is pounding. It's the smallest acts of presence in the hardest moments that shape the strongest version of you. The world loves to celebrate strength in terms of confidence, dominance, winning, but real strength is quieter. It's in the mother who gets up after a sleepless night and still shows up for her kids. It's in the student who studies for hours despite overwhelming anxiety. It's in the creator who keeps putting their work out even when the likes and praise are missing. Real strength is choosing not to retreat even when you're tempted to disappear. It's deciding that your presence matters even when you don't feel like enough. What we forget is that courage and fear often coexist. People think bravery means not feeling scared, but that's a myth. Bravery is moving with fear. It's showing up with trembling knees. It's saying yes with a pounding heart. It's not about being fearless, it's about being committed, and that's where the difference lies. Fear tells you to stop. Courage tells you to go anyway, even if you're crying, even if you're shaking, even if you feel like an imposter. There's a certain kind of power in being consistent, especially when no one's watching. When there's no applause, no reassurance, no recognition, just you and your effort, that's where identity is built. That's where confidence is born, not from outcomes, but from the fact that you kept your promise to yourself. You said you'd show up, and you did. That's integrity, that's discipline, and that's strength. Showing up when you're exhausted teaches you about limits and how to stretch them. It helps you recognize when to rest, yes, but also when to push just a little further. It teaches you to tune into your body, to honor your needs, but not be controlled by your feelings, because your feelings will fluctuate. But if you let them rule every decision, you'll miss out on the grit that gets built through perseverance. When you show up while scared, you're training your nervous system to handle pressure. You're telling your body and your brain, I'm not running from this. I'm capable of facing discomfort. Over time, that builds emotional stamina. You stop panicking at the first sign of resistance. You start trusting your ability to handle hard things, and that is one of the most powerful forms of confidence you can carry. The most inspiring people in the world are rarely the most talented or the most charismatic. They are the ones who refuse to quit, who are relentless in their presence, who understand that showing up is not about perfection, it's about persistence. They are the ones who know that progress isn't always visible, but it's always happening when you stay in motion. That's the kind of strength that transforms lives, quietly, steadily from the inside out. And while showing up tired and afraid is hard, it's also sacred. It's proof that you care, that you're invested, that what you're working toward matters enough to stretch beyond your limits. There is something deeply beautiful about that kind of effort. It's not glamorous, it's not dramatic, but it's incredibly real. So when the voice in your head says you're not strong enough, remind yourself, strength isn't about how you feel in any given moment, it's about what you do in that moment, and if you choose to show up tired, scared, uncertain, that's not weakness. That's your power on full display. Whether or not anyone sees it, you'll know, and that knowing, that quiet pride becomes your fuel. You don't need to feel brave to be brave. You just need to take the step. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about courage. People often think bravery looks loud, bold, and certain, like a movie scene where the hero charges forward without hesitation. But real life doesn't feel like that. In real life, courage is often quiet, shaky, and full of doubt. Most of the time, when you do something brave, you don't even realize it in the moment. You're scared, your hands are trembling, your stomach is turning, and yet you take the step. That's bravery, not the absence of fear, but the decision to move anyway. So many people wait to feel brave before they take action. They wait for fear to disappear, for the anxiety to go away, for the perfect calm moment when everything feels safe. But that moment rarely comes, because the things that matter, the things that stretch you, grow you, elevate your life, will almost always come with fear attached. They're unfamiliar, they're vulnerable. They require risk, and your brain is wired to avoid that kind of uncertainty. So if you wait until you feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. Bravery isn't about feeling invincible, it's about feeling everything: doubt, fear, discomfort, and taking the step anyway. The step to start, the step to speak up, the step to change direction, the step to say no, the step to say yes, and sometimes that step is the smallest thing: a conversation, a phone call, an email, a decision to try again after failing. But that small act, it becomes the pivot point of your entire story, the thing that moves you from where you are to where you're meant to be. Fear will always be part of the process. It's not a signal to stop. It's a sign that what you're doing matters, that you're standing at the edge of something new, that you're pushing your boundaries. The presence of fear means growth is near, but we're taught to treat fear like a red light when really it's a green light. It means go, it means you're alive, it means you care. We also tend to overestimate the danger of what we're afraid of. Our minds create worst-case scenarios that rarely ever happen. We imagine embarrassment, rejection, failure, but we forget that we're stronger than all of those things. We forget that even if it doesn't go the way we planned, we'll learn, we'll adapt, we'll survive, and sometimes we'll even succeed beyond what we imagined, but you only get access to that possibility if you take the step. It's important to understand that bravery isn't a personality trait, it's a choice. You don't have to be extroverted, outspoken, or wildly confident to be brave. You just have to decide that your desire to grow is bigger than your fear of falling. You have to choose your future self over your current comfort, and the beautiful thing is, the more you practice this kind of courage, the more natural it becomes. Each brave step builds confidence, each step proves to you that you can do hard things. And eventually, what once terrified you becomes second nature, but you won't get there by thinking your way out of fear. You get there by doing. Action is the antidote. You don't need to silence fear before you act. You need to act in spite of it. That's the only way you rewrite the story, because bravery isn't about having no fear, it's about making sure fear doesn't have you. Taking that first step can feel lonely, especially if you don't have support or encouragement. But it's in those moments that you realize how much power you really have. When you act without applause, when you push through without validation, when you face fear without a safety net, that's when you tap into your own strength. And that strength stays with you. It becomes part of who you are. Some of the most life-changing moments you'll experience will come from acts of courage that no one sees, quiet bravery, private battles. Uncelebrated victories. You may not even tell anyone about them, but you'll feel them, and they'll shift how you see yourself. They'll remind you that you're more capable than you thought, that you have everything it takes, not because you're never afraid, but because you refuse to let fear win. And let's be honest, sometimes bravery feels like failure. Sometimes you take the step and it doesn't go the way you hoped. You stumble, you fall, you lose, but that doesn't mean you weren't brave. It means you tried. And that trying, that willingness to risk, to dare, to reach, is what moves you forward. Every failure carries wisdom. Every fall gives you a new level of perspective, and every attempt makes the next one easier. So if you're waiting to feel brave, stop. You don't need the feeling, you need the step, even if it's a small one, even if you're scared, especially if you're scared. That's the moment your courage becomes real, not because everything feels good, but because you chose growth over fear. You chose movement over stillness. You chose to bet on yourself, and that choice is the beginning of everything. The life you want, the version of you you're becoming, the goals you dream about but haven't dared to chase. All of them are waiting on the other side of one thing, your decision to act, not when you're ready, not when you're fearless, just when you're willing, just when you say to yourself, this matters enough to try. That is bravery. Not loud, not perfect, not fearless, just you choosing to step forward anyway. Everyone wants the big moment, the win, the applause, the breakthrough. We dream about that single defining event that will change everything. But what most people overlook is the power of consistency. It's not the big, dramatic moments that build a legacy. It's the quiet, repetitive choices. It's doing the work when no one is watching. It's showing up day after day, not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. Success doesn't just happen, it's built. One choice, one action, one effort at a time. There is something deeply underrated about consistency. It's not glamorous. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't always feel rewarding in the moment. But it's what separates those who succeed from those who only wish they could. Because talent can open doors, But consistency is what keeps them open. Anyone can have a good day. Anyone can put in effort when they feel motivated. But it's the ones who do the work even when they're tired, bored, uninspired, or uncertain. That's who moves forward. Discipline beats inspiration every time. Inspiration is fleeting. It's like a spark, bright and beautiful, but short-lived. Discipline is the fire that keeps burning long after the spark fades. It's the routine you stick to when you're not in the mood. It's the commitment you honor even when the results are invisible. And that kind of consistency, that's how you build something real. That's how you become someone unstoppable. The truth is, no one really feels motivated all the time. The people who seem the most focused and productive, they feel just as distracted, tired, and overwhelmed as anyone else. The difference is, they've made a decision. They've decided to prioritize action over mood. They've learned to trust the process more than their feelings, because they know that consistency isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. It's about doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel about it in the moment. Some days you'll feel like you're moving mountains. Other days, just getting out of bed might be the win, and both count. That's the beauty of consistency. It allows room for fluctuation without falling apart. You don't need to be at 100% every day. You just need to keep showing up with whatever you have. One day, that might be a powerful sprint. Another day, it might be a slow crawl, but if you keep moving, you stay in the game, you stay aligned with your vision. Consistency builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. When you prove to yourself that you can be counted on to follow through, even when it's hard, you build confidence. Not the surface kind of confidence that comes from praise, but the deep-rooted kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. That's the kind of confidence that's unshakable. It doesn't need external validation because it's built on experience, on evidence, on truth. It's also the foundation of momentum. Momentum doesn't show up out of nowhere. It's created by repeated action. At first, progress feels slow, painfully slow. You might put in days or weeks or months of effort without seeing much return. But with consistency, something begins to shift. The compound effect kicks in. Tiny gains start stacking up. Skills sharpen. Clarity increases. Results begin to surface. And all of a sudden, it looks like you're making progress overnight. But it wasn't overnight. It was the quiet build-up of countless consistent days. People often give up because they think their efforts aren't working, but most of the time they just haven't stayed in the game long enough to see the results. The seed doesn't sprout the moment you water it. The change doesn't happen the moment you commit to it, but every drop, every choice, every repetition counts. It all adds up. And if you stay the course, it eventually shows. But you have to be patient enough to stay consistent without needing immediate proof. The irony is, consistency feels boring, but it leads to the most exciting outcomes. It's not the dramatic breakthroughs that define your journey. It's the daily habits, the small efforts, the quiet discipline. It's waking up and deciding that your goals matter enough to give them attention, even on days when you don't feel like it, especially on days when you don't feel like it. And yes, there will be days when you miss the mark. When you skip the workout, when you mess up the routine, when you fall off track, that's normal, that's human, but consistency isn't about being flawless. It's about coming back, again and again, not letting one bad day turn into a bad week, or one mistake become an excuse to quit. It's about resilience, forgiveness, renewal. The real reward of consistency isn't just the external success. It's who you become in the process. You become someone who can be trusted, someone who follows through, someone who doesn't rely on hype but on heart, someone who understands that excellence is not an act, it's a habit, it's a decision made over and over until it becomes part of who you are. So if you want change, real, lasting change, don't chase motivation. Chase consistency. Don't wait for the perfect time. Just start. Do something small, do it often, do it especially when it feels inconvenient. That's the path, that's the power, that's how greatness is built. Not all at once, but day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. Fear is not the enemy, it's the compass. We grow up thinking fear is something to avoid, something negative that signals danger or weakness. But fear isn't there to stop you, it's there to guide you. The things that scare you most often point directly to the places where your biggest growth lies. Fear appears when you're standing at the edge of your comfort zone, staring at a possibility that could change everything. It shows up not because you're incapable, but because you're about to enter uncharted territory. And in that moment, fear isn't a signal to retreat, it's a signal to pay attention. When something matters to you, fear often comes with it. It's not random, it's specific. You don't feel scared about things you don't care about. You don't get nervous about opportunities that don't challenge you. You don't overthink steps that don't require courage. The stronger the emotional reaction, the more it means to you. Fear is a reflection of value. It tells you where your desire is hiding. And when you learn to read fear as data instead of danger, everything changes. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of fear? Start asking, what is it trying to show me? Fear isn't always rational, but it is always informative. It tells you where you still have healing to do, where you need to build confidence, where you've placed importance, where your dreams live. When you see fear not as a threat, but as a guide, you stop running from it, and you start learning from it. Fear makes you human, but how you respond to it determines how far you'll go. You can let it shrink you, or you can let it sharpen you. You can let it stop you, or you can let it shape you. Fear doesn't disappear, no matter how strong or successful you become. What changes is your relationship with it. You learn to coexist with it, to carry it without letting it control you, to feel it without letting it define your decisions. The problem isn't fear itself, it's the stories we attach to it. We tell ourselves that feeling scared means we're not ready, that if we were really capable, we'd feel confident, that we should wait until we're more prepared, but that's not how growth works. You don't feel ready before the leap. You become ready because you leap. Readiness is forged in action, not thought. Fear is part of that process. It's not a red light. It's a yellow light asking you to proceed with awareness, not avoidance. The people who achieve incredible things aren't fearless. They're fluent in fear. They've learned to navigate it, to breathe through it, to act despite it. They understand that fear is not a stop sign, it's a starting line. It's the inner alarm clock that tells you, this is where something important begins. And if you don't listen to it, you risk missing the moments that could redefine your life. You grow in the direction of your discomfort. Think of every breakthrough you've ever had, every time you've become stronger, wiser, more confident. It didn't come from staying safe. It came from stepping into something that scared you, having a hard conversation, making a big decision, taking a bold risk. Those moments were filled with fear, and that's what made them powerful. Fear was there not to stop you, but to mark the moment of transformation. Avoiding fear keeps you small. It tricks you into thinking safety is success, but safety is often just stagnation in disguise. Growth asks you to stretch, to leave behind what's familiar, to embrace uncertainty. That's uncomfortable, and that's where fear shows up. But the presence of fear means you're on the right path. It means you're leaning into your edge. It means you're choosing evolution over ease. Learning to walk with fear is a practice. It doesn't happen all at once. Some days you'll feel courageous, other days you'll want to hide. That's okay. The goal isn't to erase fear, it's to expand your capacity to move with it, to create space in your nervous system for discomfort, to breathe deeper, stand taller, and keep moving even when everything in you wants to retreat. That's bravery, that's growth, that's power. Fear has a way of magnifying the unknown. It tells you stories of worst-case scenarios. It exaggerates what might go wrong, but rarely does it tell the whole truth. It doesn't account for your resilience. It doesn't factor in your adaptability. It forgets how many times you've already faced things that scared you and survived. It underestimates you, and that's why you can't let it have the final word. You have to remind yourself that fear is only one voice. It's loud, but it's not the only one. You have to turn up the volume on your purpose, on your vision, on your belief that something more is possible. When you reframe fear as your compass, you stop fearing the fear. You stop wasting energy trying to silence it. You start using it, letting it highlight the places that matter most, letting it push you toward the next version of yourself. Fear then becomes your fuel, not because it feels good, but because it keeps you awake, aware, and alive. You'll never stop feeling fear, but you can stop obeying it. You can stop letting it make your decisions. You can stop letting it build the borders of your life. The most powerful version of you is waiting just past the edge of fear, and you don't need to conquer it to get there. You just need to walk with it, listen to it, learn from it, and then keep moving forward, because fear isn't a wall, it's a doorway, and walking through it is how everything changes.